A pleasure to meet y'all at last. And I'm here on Why Is That once again. But this time, it's not exactly going to be about the balance of me based on what personal life is all about. This is going to be about something that I used to love so much, but eventually I just lost sight of it. This is a question dedicated to my huge Nerf blaster collection. And of course these questions have been asked to me for nearly 2 years, but I felt like today would be the perfect time to actually go through them rather than to just do it sooner. Because it would give others the time to think about why I intended on just not doing any more Nerf blaster collecting and instead focusing on other things to collect. And so, here we are now. This question actually came from both YouTube commenters and Twitter users, but I'll only list a few of them out. So, the lucky ones here are going to give shout-outs. The others, well, good luck trying to get yourself a shout-out. I mean, you can probably do it next time we make an episode on Why Is That, or you can just simply keep doing other questions even. Making other questions would probably be more likely to get your shout-outs rather than to just keep on using the same ones over and over and over again. So here's the question. Both the Twitter users and YouTube commenters asked me, why is that you no longer feel an interest in collecting Nerf blasters? And this actually tends to go way back because the first time ever, that was the first ever really big hobby of mine, but I'd say since by the end of 2017 was where I started to think that Nerf was becoming too expensive. It was pretty much just draining out my monetary assets, and I knew for a fact that that was the case because of the fact that Nerf today is much more expensive than it used to be. With smaller blasters though, the price usually varies between the size of the blaster, what accessories it comes with, how many darts does it include. It is usually a pretty big variation in terms of pricing with today's Nerf blasters. But in the 2018 Nerf blaster lineup that I've seen by far, some of the blasters are in a price at which I can manage it pretty well, but with others out there, I just cannot really tell for sure if I'm going to be able to get them or not. But the first time I started to feel a disinterest, a non-interest, my interest in Nerf blasters going down was around the very end of 2016. And that was because in the very end of 2016 was where I started to think to myself, Nerf blasters are getting too expensive. Why not just try to limit yourself? And so that is actually what I did. So, months later, during the summer of 2017, was where I only bought 5 blasters. I bought the Glow Shot, I bought a White Triad, which I gave it another name. I bought a few other blasters like those, but with bigger blasters I didn't necessarily do anything like that. Though I probably will buy some more because, as it turns out, I have actually said it before, but you probably not believe me right now, but I'm actually going to be getting rid of a huge chunk of my Nerf blaster collection. And I mean huge, because if you've seen the pictures on an Instagram account I used to have back in 2014 up until the end of 2016, was where I had a few pictures of my enormous Nerf blaster collection on the wall and in another bin. I had multiple bins and otherwise that I used my Nerf blaster collection to sit in. But then again, considering how it is today, I have them all up on the same wall that I have been using for at least 3 to 4 years even. I feel like my collection's already going to reach a certain bit of a downfall right now. But today is where the interest in Nerf blasters really started to really just crumble. Just crumble. And there's actually a couple reasons why that's the case right now. For me today, here in late 2018, I'm no longer really collecting blasters, more likely collecting Hot Wheels or anything like that. The reasons as to why my Nerf blaster collection had started to crumble and my interest just started to fade away very quickly was because, as I've said before, the collection that I had was really draining out my monetary assets. And here's reason number 2, which actually goes even further back than just 2016, as to where my interest started to fade out. Because back then, in 2014 and 2013, was where my parents got me a lot of Nerf blasters for Christmas and my birthdays. My Christmases and birthdays were another pretty big source as to how my blaster collection ended up getting very big over time. They ended up starting, as soon as I unpackaged the blasters from wrapping paper during Christmas or birthdays, was where either my mother or father started to step right in. They would just take the blaster out of my hands as soon as I unwrapped it from the wrapping paper. They'd go, "No, let's take it back." And it's something like that that actually started to remind me as to how bad the Nerf blaster collection I was gaining really quickly over the last 5 years was starting to really get through to me. Because nowadays, I have used some of my money to pay off Nerf blasters for myself, but that wasn't actually in really much recent times. It's more likely in times in which that I have had to collect Nerf blasters because I was just remembering the times in which I collected a ton of them and played a lot with them. But again, there's actually more than just one simple explanation as to how my Nerf blaster collection just started to really go down in history in a way. With that being said, my monetary assets was being drained. I was getting reminded multiple times that Nerf blasters would be something that I would no longer collect, and there would also be something else in mind that I would eventually start to collect. And that, of course, was Hot Wheels cars. Hot Wheels cars was something that I eventually got back into after a several-year hiatus, but this whole year I'm also considering to spend a little too much money for Hot Wheels cars and other Hot Wheels related gear. It's not as expensive as how much I would pay for Nerf blasters to feed off my collection, my obsession with Nerf in ways, but nowadays it's Hot Wheels that have taken my brain by storm. And here we go now, because now Nerf blasters are no longer a part of me, and it's Hot Wheels that have taken my heart, and they've really started to impact me from the ground up. But remembering my Nerf blaster collection has always been a cinch, because the years have gone by very quickly. The last 8 years have actually been a much bigger time in which I have actually collected much more Nerf blasters than usual. I have gotten at least 55 of them in just 8 years. In 2010 was where I had the Deploy and Jolt. In 2011 was where I bought a few others. In 2012 was where I bought my first Elite blaster, the Retaliator, along with an older blaster called the Spectre. In 2013 and 2014 and 2015, those were times in which my collection started to really, really get bigger and bigger and bigger. I wasn't just going to rummage sales or even Craigslist or even other... I wasn't just going to yard sales, rummage sales, garage sales, any sales around town that I would look for just to feed my little Nerf obsession that had been going on through my head for at least 10 whole years. What I've also been trying to do is I've also been trying to work my butt off to get more money, and that money of which would mostly go for Nerf blasters, but some of which I managed to spare and just keep it in my safe, which eventually turned into a bank savings account. But that's just another kind of subject I'd rather not go into detail with right now. Because my monetary assets did play a huge role in my Nerf blaster collecting, though once again, money really didn't have much to do with it, because the main subject as to why my Nerf blaster collection interest started to fade out and eventually just fade away for good was not only because of my monetary assets being drained out, was not only because of the fact that my parents have taken away the blasters from me as soon as I unwrapped them from the wrapping paper on Christmases and birthdays of mine, as well as some other times of which that I have unwrapped them from wrapping paper as probably late birthday gifts or late Christmas gifts. The third reason as to how my collection ended up staying where it is, staying on course, was because of the time that now, because I am a 19-year-old, I feel that collecting Nerf blasters would be just little more than feeding my own childhood that had gone away since I even turned 17. I mean, my childhood time had been gone since I was 17, and there was also times in which I made some more commitments then towards adulthood. That, of course, is the ultimate reason as to why my Nerf blaster collection ended up staying on course and just remaining how it is. No other blaster had been bought after that time in 2017. Here in 2018, I was considering getting some blasters, but then again, I realized how expensive some of them were compared to just one Hot Wheels car. One Hot Wheels car would sell for 97 cents on average, whereas with a Nerf blaster, it would sell at least $22 on average. 22 Hot Wheels cars, that would be the equivalent of. Probably even more. Because of the fact that now inflation rates are pretty much just taking over this economy by storm, we're seeing some more expensive type. We're seeing some more expenses tied into what we normally have bought within years. Years ago was a time in which that I started buying Nerf blasters a lot, but nowadays, because of inflation rates over the last decade, I am more likely seeing as to how expensive something could get in a given century even, rather than to just find something right now and just buy it with whatever money I got left. And there's more reasons tied into that my collection has started to just stay how it is right now without getting any larger or smaller, although it probably will continue to get smaller because of the fact that last year I sold plenty of Nerf blasters and made quite some profits off of it. And I know for a fact that the collection of mine is going to be much smaller by the end of this decade. This whole decade, the 2010s, I am thinking that most of my collection is actually going to have to go as well. I might only keep a few to remind myself as to how Nerf had changed my life for the better. It made myself feel like a better man. It started making me feel like I was in a Call of Duty game for real. And it started to also really amp up my charisma. And it even started to boost some of my entertainment value as to how well Nerf had really played a big part of my life. But nowadays, Nerf collection is just staying how it is. It's not going to get any bigger anytime soon, unless I do consider buying probably smaller blasters I probably would end up getting if I were to continue getting my collection larger like it used to be. But nowadays, Hot Wheels cars have been the main hobby of mine. Not to mention the fact that I have actually created an entire season's worth of videos. Seasons referring to a television show, that is, because a lot of my content is television based. I tend to create seasons off of it, and I do create a lot of episodes for them, as I call them. I have made quite big with Hot Wheels Hilarity compared to Nerf Secrets Revealed. Nerf Secrets Revealed had gotten at least 17 comments on average a year, whereas with Hot Wheels Hilarity, I am seeing more than 29 comments a year. Though this is the first year that Hot Wheels Hilarity had come around, I've seen that many, and it's probably going to keep on climbing up. Hot Wheels Hilarity has played a much bigger value in terms of comment gain and otherwise on it. I would get more positive comments on it. Nerf Secrets Revealed didn't really get too many positive comments on it. It got more spam comments, as I've known. Though the spam comments are no longer around because of YouTube's new policies on spammers and misleading content. So, to summarize, Nerf Secrets Revealed is not exactly going to be as big of a picture as it used to be. Hot Wheels Hilarity is going to be a much bigger picture for me. With my Nerf blaster collection, it is gonna stay the way it is, and it's not really going to get much bigger than it is right now. It's more like just going to get much smaller by the end of this decade. And with other things in mind, I do consider myself proud just to keep my blaster collection how it is. I really do not want to just keep on bending my monetary assets just to keep on paying off that little obsession of mine, because it's not really as much of an obsession as it used to be. It's almost like regret, and that's probably something that many of you might take very seriously, but you could always just watch some of my Nerf Secrets Revealed episodes that go as far back as 2013. even though the dates on them have been rendered to 2015. That's going to be something else for another day, though. There's plenty of other questions that I've got for the series right now here on Why Is That? And there's actually going to be a lot more questions that I will have to answer in the future. They probably aren't just Why Is That questions. And considering how things have been going so far, I'm thinking the answers that I've given to every question so far have actually gone out pretty darn well. I mean, the series by far, Why Is That, for this year, have actually done pretty well. I'm trying to give myself a pat on the back for that, maybe 2 pats on the back, just for the fact that I have done much better than even this. But of course, here on Why Is That, how I am doing currently is actually quite a bit I'd say pretty good, at least. But to say the least as to what else I'm going to do here after I stop answering Why Is That questions, it's probably going to be something a little different, but then again, I'm probably not always going to consider myself ridiculous just to answer anybody else's questions here on Why Is That. But with Why Is That questions, it's a much more unique setup, and it's a much bigger play for me to take on. But anyways, though, if you want to see more, go down on Why Is That, as well as my channel. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.